Hello, welcome to the Vaadin studios again, and here are me again, Tatu, and Johannes from the maintenance and support team of Vaadin, and today we will talk a little bit about a topic called scalability, application scalability, and then we go in detail how we actually test it with a tool called JMeter. And as I said, we are from team called maintenance support. Vaadin has actually delivered to some customers whole applications, and therefore we have had actually great interest on application scalability, since some of our applications are used actually in big corporations, so they may have a lot of concurrent users. So application scalability is a very important topic for us. In our team, especially Johannes has been focused on those topics, and the applications what we have in maintenance and some support customers we have been actually very good cases to study on. So without further ado, I present you Johannes here.
Yes, as Tatu said, I'm from maintenance support team, and I am especially interested in scalability and web application optimization topics. Okay, can you tell something about our today's agenda?
Yes, I briefly already told something about this. So first we will talk about a little bit generic things related to application scalability, why and so forth we should do that. And then the second part of the today we will talk about how to set up a JMeter tool. It's a free tool to test your application.
Yeah. And then we have a demo, and after demo we have time for questions from you.
So you can post your questions to YouTube or our Vaadin forum JMeter scalability webinar topic there. It's under events sub class there.
Yep. Okay, let's start then why and then when. The purpose of scalability testing is to simulate the production load against your server. It is typically done in two different situations. First, if you are following test-driven development, you typically should test your scalability early and often. And in that case, you basically are verifying that changes your application is not breaking your scalability. And you have already decided what is the expected concurrent user count in the production. And the second case is that you already might have your application in the production, and there are scalability issues in it, and you are trying your best to find those and resolve it.
Yes, it can be kind of sometimes hard to predict beforehand.
Yeah, it appears to be so. It is quite a typical case.
So what kind of testing tools there are actually available? I already mentioned the JMeter.
Yeah, there is JMeter and Gatling. Those are free tools and very handy tools. JMeter is the classic one with very extensive set of features, and the Gatling is the newer one, and it is more lightweight. And one big good thing about it is that it supports also WebSocket communication. And then there is also Neoload, which is commercial, but it's very extensive and good, and it has optimized plugin for Vaadin too. And I think we have had a webinar about Neoload. I think it was November last year.
Yes, we had. So if you seek our webinar archive, you should find it.
Okay, but the main idea in these tools is to record the client-to-server requests, and after recording you can play back these requests with several concurrent threads to simulate the production user in your application.
Okay.
Okay. Then what about Vaadin? What makes testing Vaadin different from other frameworks? I will tell here quickly about, very briefly about Vaadin communication model. For example, we have in the top corner we have a login form with two fields and two buttons. And Vaadin as Vaadin is server-side framework, we have client-side and server-side part, and both have the same set of components. And Vaadin needs somehow identify the same component in both sides, so it uses connector IDs for that purpose. And these connector IDs are assigned to components at the time they are attached to UI, and this is done sequentially from the integer sequence. And if the order where the components are attached, or there will be another component, these IDs will change. So that's one thing you have to be aware when you load test Vaadin applications.
Okay.
There is a couple of other tokens or IDs that are Vaadin special. Well, the first one is quite often used in many other web applications too. It is the cross-site request forgery token, which is used to verify that the requests are coming from user session and not from attacker. And then one special ID is the sync ID, which takes care that no requests are dropped between other requests.
So in this picture, the black pipe here represents the communication between the browser and the server.
Yes,
and
exactly.
all these tokens and IDs are needed in order that both the client and the browser and then the server module, they have the exactly correct information what is happening on the screen.
Exactly, yes. And it made testing a little bit complicated, but fortunately Vaadin has configuration to disable those tokens for the testing time. In the production use, you should always use them, but at the testing time you can disable those easily.
Okay. So this may sound complicated. What kind of impact on this communication model there actually is in the application scalability?
In my experience, I have made a lot of scalability testing. It has surprisingly minimal effect on the scalability. Perhaps one thing to mention about Vaadin is that what affects the scalability is the session size. Vaadin sessions are perhaps a little bit large if you don't take care that it does not grow too much. But otherwise, Vaadin is very lightweight, and typical bottlenecks comes from database and slow business logic and external integrations and stuff like that.
So when we are doing the testing, for example, with the JMeter, and start to saw that after certain threshold they are starting to be slowed down, so typical culprits that you should start to seek on is that in which kind of control your session size is, that how much your application on the server side starts to eat memory, and what kind of bottlenecks there are in the databases.
Yes. Okay, I think it's now time for the demo.
Okay, let's go there.
I will quickly show our test application. Let's see, let's make it running. It is you can make this exactly same application by using our Maven artifact Vaadin example application. I have made here a couple of modifications for making the testing easier. For example, I use tool add-on, third-party add-on that makes it possible to use CSS IDs of components for communication IDs, so you don't have to take care of so much about changing UI and your test should work.
And this add-on is found in our directory.
Yeah, and it is recently upgraded to support grid better.
Nice.
And you should enable it in your POM XML or IV XML and then use it instead of standard Vaadin servlet. Let's see, our Jetty is still starting, and here you can see the configuration how to disable the cross-site request forgery protection to make your test easier. Let's see if we have already the application running. Yes, here it is. It is simple bookstore application with login form and list of books which you can edit by clicking and add new product and filter. Let's not go yet there. As I said, we have this add-on for enabling us to use CSS IDs as the communication IDs, and here you see how to set the CSS ID. Just calling set ID for the component before it is attached to UI. Here we set it for the login screen, username, password and login button.
Okay. Are these setting these IDs something that you actually should do also for other purposes than this load testing?
Yeah, you can. It benefits also teaming work. It is easier to find the components. The guy who are doing the teaming, it will help him to or her. Okay,
then it's something that if you want to put these testing specific codes under configurable properties, something that you could enable always, and then disabling these security features put in the those parts put into the profile that is used for testing.
Yeah, it is good practice to have a property for enabling load testing mode, which does those things. Yeah. Okay, we can now start the JMeter. I have already downloaded from the internet. It's here. Let's open it. All right. And JMeter has a lot of useful templates, and the one that is already here selected is the template for recording. Now let's create that. Here we see the workbench, the recorder, some listeners for debugging purpose, and the place where the requests will go. Okay, there is a user-defined variables, and we add here one variable called row ID. I will explain it later where we need that one. And for request defaults, I put here a localhost, and where is the port? I think it doesn't fit the screen, but there is a port field also, and you can use this to record first in the localhost and then play back the test against your production or QA environment. And we have cookie manager, which clears the cookies by its iteration if your test is long with several iterations. And one other configuration what we need is in this demo is the CSV dataset config, which is very useful. For example, storing your test users' usernames and passwords. And we have here the test dataset, and it's UTF-8, and we will take these user variables out of it. I can show it quickly. It is here. It basically have a username and password for our test users, and those are now loaded.
So this is something that when you prepare your application for load testing, you need to also prepare, for example, multiple test user accounts there in the application.
Yeah. In some cases, your application might allow to use single username and password, but in many cases you need individual username and password for test users. So, all right. Okay, then we have the workbench with the recorder. I typically use port 9999 here, and yes, we can start it. All right, now it should be started. Then we go back to the Firefox, and as the recorder is basically a proxy, we need to set up proxy also for the Firefox.
Exactly, because now we need to route all the traffic that would normally go directly from browser to the server side. We need to kind of inject this recorder and JMeter in between.
Okay, here we have the proxy configuration. Should be now enabled. Okay, now we can open our application. Yes, it seemed to open fine, and we will verify that we are getting the requests here. Everything seems all right, and we can also see how our log is, application log, and we see also that it is initialized. Okay, let's continue with our test path. First, input username and password and log in. Okay, here we are, and the following thing in our test path is to input new product in the database. Let's call it Hobbit. Save it, and there it is, and we can try to find it with filter. Yes, we can select it, and the last thing which we will use in this demo is to delete it, and after that log out.
So now we are kind of defining a test case.
Yeah, we have now very simple test case for our demo. So we can shut down the Firefox, stop the recorder, and see what we have here. First there is this opening request, and then important request is this login. I will rename it so we can find it easier. That was the login, and then let's see, then we click the new product button. You see here now these IDs what were set as CSS IDs are now used for communication, so the test is more easily readable too. And we insert the product name and finally save the product, and let's rename it Tatu. Save product, and after that we go back to the list view, and there was one static resource SVG file which is not needed in this test, so we can remove it. Let's see, then we filter it with text Hobbit and selected the row after the filter. And you see here the row ID, selected row ID, and as we are testing with several concurrent users, this row ID will not be always the same, so we have to use the user variable which we set earlier in the user variables, and we can set it as a row ID. I can copy paste it here so I can avoid some type mistakes that way. And I will also rename this request as select row.
Actually, now, if you haven't done this before, you actually see quite clearly that what kind of magic there is happening between the client and server when Vaadin works. These things what you see here are actually the JSON packages what the client server exchanges.
And as we wish to use username and password from the CSV file, so we have to configure those here. Let's take this username first. Instead of the fixed username, we use now the user variable, and same thing for the password too. Let's see. It was here PW. All right.
So in the actual testing, then this recording is used as the test case template. When the load testing is done, these variables are replaced with the data from the file you set up
exactly.
in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, but how we get this row ID? It is not from the CSV file, so we have to parse it from the responses of these requests. We already renamed this say product request so we can find it easier, and we can find this request also from under the recorder from the view result tree, and the say product request was 23. Let's see, the request is here the say product, and if we see the response of it coming from the server side, we see that there is the new row which is inserted in the grid, and it's 100, and we can use a regular expression extractor to take this 100 out of this response, and that is done by adding the regular expression extractor in the say product request. It is JMeter's post processors, and it's here, and the reference name was row ID, and the regular expression I will copy paste it from here, and we only need one place and one, and the thing in the parentheses is actually the regular expression part which is extracted and assigned to row ID. And if we can see the select row request, how does it look like? Actually, I already pasted it, but it was 101. It is one bigger than the one we get from the response. So we have to increment it after we have taken it from the response. And for that purpose, JMeter has bean cell post processor, which is very handy, and let's use it here. All right, and I'll copy paste the script for incrementing. It is here. First we debug the current row ID, and then parse int out of and increment and put it back to the user variables, and again debug. To see the debug output, there is let's see, it's a little bit too small window, but yes, clicking this button will open the log of the JMeter. Okay, I think we are now ready to try our test for the first time. And
I assume that since a considerable work needs to be done this way into this recording, it is preferable to keep the test cases quite tidy and small.
Yes, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
And then have a separate test cases for different scenarios which you want to test.
Yeah, that's much easier to maintain the wall test. And okay, we can configure a number of concurrent users here in the thread graph, and we have now one user, and we will start with one to see how our test work, and we will clear our log and make it a little bit bigger and then start the test. Yes, we have to save it first. Okay, that was quick. It was run, and we see here our debug logging that we first get the 110, it was incremented to 101, and then we can see, let's see the log file, and it looks alright. It is initialized. User 1 logged in. The user 1 was from the CSV file, and the product habit was added and deleted, and then we logged out. And the Vaadin application redirected back to login page. Thus, there is a new session initialized. Okay, let's start adding more users. Let's say 10 users and like 3 seconds, and see does it work. It seems fine, and so does those log seem alright too.
So this ramp up period, does it mean that it waits 3 seconds before it logs the next user, or?
It does mean the time when all the users are in.
Okay, so it interpolates that. And
yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Typically, to make the test more realistic, there should be some delay between the requests. Now the requests are run after each other as fast as our server can serve those. And you can add the delay either from here, add the timer and uniform random timer, where is the random part and constant part. For example, if we want to wait at least 500 milliseconds, we put 500 there.
So that makes the test scenario more realistic because...
yes. And there is another way to do it is by adding the timer directly under the recorder and use the user variable t, which means that the actual delay between all the clicks in the browser are recorded and used as delay between the requests. That's another possibility. And typically you wish to add some assertions to make sure that everything goes well, and you can add it with typical response assertion, for example. And one thing to assert is for internal errors, so we can see from our test that it works well. I don't now see the add button because it is so small, this screen. But anyway, you can add those here. Okay, then other things which are useful are the listeners of JMeter, and there is, for example, this graph results, which graphs all the request response times and the throughput. And another useful one is summary report, which takes average of each individual request and calculates its average response time and some statistics too. Okay, let's try with little bit more users, say 150, and let's say 30-second ramp up time. Let's first clean up previous results and start the script. And we can see here from that average are calculated, and here is a visualization of the actual response time of the request. And let's see how does our server side looks, and it looks quite fine. And let's make that bigger. Here you can see the current number of threads from all the threads that will be executed, and the test seem to be done. And let's see the summary report. In this test the average response time was very small, and there seemed to be no error at that time. All right, I think that was a quick overview how to make a JMeter test for Vaadin application, and we have some plans to make similar webinar for Gatling too, since it supports WebSocket communication, which are used more and more in the web applications. There are surely topics that are not covered in this short webinar, but maybe those will be covered in the Gatling webinar if and when we have that one.
Yeah. We don't yet have questions here, but at least I have one in mind, that when you are running that test, how much these listeners affect the JMeter testing performance?
Yeah, that's good questions. These listeners are typically quite CPU intensive, and if you are running very big tests, say 1000 user and beyond that, you should not use more than very lightweight listeners, or actually you should use JMeter headless mode when the response statistics are written in the log files and parsed afterwards. And that's one reason why Gatling is also more lightweight. It is typically used only in headless mode.
And what you need to consider, now we tested this all in a local host, but if we are testing some remote server which is not running, now actually everything was running on the same machine, your JMeter and the application and actually everything.
Yes. Yeah, you typically use these request defaults to forward it to another server.
Exactly.
Yeah. There was a couple of questions posed beforehand, and let's see. There was one question about Apache JMeter and WebSocket communication, and unfortunately JMeter does not support WebSockets. There is a plugin that has had some support for WebSockets, but it is not very straightforward to use it with Vaadin. So if you are planning to do test with JMeter WebSocket communication, I will recommend to use Gatling instead. It has much better support for that. And then there was another question about Vaadin 7 using synchronized request handler for handling class requests. So the requests are handled synchronously, and the user asks here that is it possible to use parallel handling, and currently it is not possible, but some requests are handled parallel, such as upload requests and stuff like that. But as we have a shared session there, it is a bit tricky to make the request handling parallel. I think that was all the questions we had this time, and there seemed to be no live questions.
I actually could put one more there. So if you could open the JMeter and the graph there,
Sure.
that how you should actually read the graph. Now we had actually this was kind of a very nominal case what we got here. That everything went okay. That what kind of things there would be if there is kind of issues. No?
But you basically typically see it as when the server starts choking, then the response times are growing very fast to have hundreds of milliseconds or even seconds, and then you see that there surely is bad problems in the scalability or some else issues.
So there may be kind of a abrupt rising of the curve. Now this is kind of a very smooth load.
Yeah, now it's very smooth because our load was not very big either.
And so for example, from those views, you immediately see that where is the cracking point.
Yeah, we can see it from here or here, and typically then there will be also error percent to start rising too. Okay, there is one question coming that what is the maximum number of virtual concurrent users that can be used in for single PC. How many users you can use in single PC when you doing JMeter test? My experience is that you hardly can use more than 1,000, and after that you will need you will have to add another PC and start the test remotely. It is possible with JMeter.
So then I guess that will eventually practically mean that the network connection is not able to handle more users from one single point, so you need to have
that's one point, but the most critical one is that JMeter takes so much CPU time that it cannot make a request to fast enough to.
So this means that also if you are want to do proper testing, you need to have proper hardware to do the testing. So don't choose slow PC.
Yeah, and if you are testing very application that will be used by thousands of users, you basically need a testing cluster for JMeter test too. And
for that purpose, I guess you can make scripts running this tool from command line.
Yeah, but in many cases, in that case, I will recommend using Gatling as it is much lighter weight. I think it can handle at least 3 times the virtual user count as JMeter can.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. I think we are then ready.
I guess that was a wrap for today. Hopefully you got some insights about Vaadin scalability and how to test that in your particular application, and kind of the key takeaways from here, I think, is that we know that Vaadin actually scales pretty well.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's more up to the application design actually, that where the bottlenecks are. And this tool is one example that how you can start to really do the load testing and see that where the cracking points are and how to start to hunt for the weak points.
Yeah, and you typically use some other tools beside like some profiling tools with JMeter, like Visual VM or JProfiler or XRebel.
Those are excellent to, for example, analyzing the average session sizes and so forth.
Exactly. and to see where in your code the main bottlenecks are.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for everybody, and see you next time.
Thank you. See you.